Presidente Maurizio, do la parola a Alexis Tsipras e ringrazio ancora di aver aspettato fino a questo momento. Alexis rappresenta la speranza del cambiamento dell'Europa che vogliamo, e a lui, non soltanto a lui, è il carico di cambiarla l'Europa, ma a tutti noi. E credo che la manifestazione che abbiamo indetto per il 25 serva a dirci a tutti che se c'è un cambiamento è nelle nostre mani e sulle nostre spalle. Quindi un buon lavoro a tutti e ci vediamo alla manifestazione. Alexis.
First of all, I want to apologize for the delay, and I want to say that it's a great honor to attend this meeting. But I have a rather profound confession to make at the outset. It is as if I, as a person, as a subject, I'm split. I'm caught in the middle of a conjuncture, in the middle of colliding forces. Today I'm here between comrades, between friends, old friends and old comrades. I am on the outside the mechanisms, outside the mechanisms of state power, outside the halls of decision-making. But on Saturday, however, I will find myself on the opposite side. I will find myself on the inside, where the leaders of Europe will discuss and decide on our future, on your future. And this split between the here and there, between the inside and the outside, describes with great clarity the paradox characterizing the Greek left over the past 2 years. Because it is paradoxical for a left-wing party, for a left-wing government to be implementing a structural and fiscal adjustment program dictated by the Troika. But we were forced to accept such a paradoxical role for ourselves. We decided to make a tactical compromise in order to avoid an all-out strategic defeat. And now we find ourselves in a crucial moment, because these days Greece is again on the front line of a struggle that concerns all of Europe. We are fighting for collective bargainings to be restored in our country and to end this state of exception now for all and for anybody else in the future. And this is one of the reasons why we didn't give up 2 years ago, because we knew that we would be able to fight for the rights of the social majority from a better position. And it is now that we have this chance. So we now ask the European leadership to give a straightforward answer in a very clear question. Is there a European social and labor acquis for all member states or not? The fact that Europe does not defend its own achievements, its own legacy, its own social model, the fact that Europe has surrendered to the IMF, explains why Europe is facing an existential crisis today. Definitely, this is not our Europe. This is only the Europe that we want to change. In place of the Europe of fear, unemployment, and poverty, we want a Europe in the service of human and social needs. But we don't want a Europe with no future, because Europe is our common home. It is the basic terrain where the class and social struggles for change can bear fruit. It is the only place where social change can be meaningful. The huge social mobilization these days in Rome shows that Europe is our battlefield. And it shows why we have to overcome fragmentation and join forces so that we can become stronger and more effective. The target of local and national social protests and social movements is European Union austerity policies. And Rome should mark the beginning of a common European framework and transcends our differences and attacks those policies head-on. Dear comrades and friends, on Saturday, Europe celebrates the 60th anniversary of the beginning of its integration process. However, there is a question. There is a question that the European establishment has to answer. Bearing in mind how the European project started out in 1957, how it has evolved since then, the question is, what kind of Europe we have now? And if this is the Europe we want. No one denies that Europe is an integration project. As an integration project has always been mired in contradiction. But the forces of democracy, solidarity, peace, and equality demand it, and at times secured their place in the European integration process. Today, however, Europe is almost exclusively a space of austerity, a space of deregulation of social and labor rights, and closed borders for political refugees and migrants. Neoliberalism has almost completely devoured Europe. The current level of economic and social divergence in the Eurozone is unprecedented. It is clearly at odds with the EU treaty objectives of balanced economic growth, full employment, and social progress. And the dangerous rise of the extreme right and nationalism owes to the policy of open borders to austerity and closed borders to refugees and asylum seekers. In this, it is the absence of solidarity and the regression to the nation state. It is the not in my own backyard mentality. It is the border fences that bred Euroscepticism and nationalism. Neoliberalism has been without a doubt the political springboard for the national right, And this is why the right is not and cannot be an alternative to the extreme right. We know that it is the neoliberal management of the economic crisis which increased existing inequalities and asymmetries within our countries and among our countries. It took the form of a systematic attack of capital against labor in order to redistribute income for the many to the few and to reverse all major labor achievements made in the post-war years. It fed unemployment and spread the web of poverty to the lower social classes. And apart from widening the gap between Europe's north and south, it also deepened its divisions in Europe through aggressive and absurd stereotypes. There are some, though fortunately only few, who try to hide the economic division that neoliberalism has caused behind non-existent cultural division. They do so by restoring to ridiculous stereotypes and discriminatory language about the prudent North and the irresponsible South. But let me put some questions on the table. Who actually asked for help from Europe's North earlier than in May 2010, in 2009? Was it Greece or were the European banks at the beginning of the crisis? Who profited from the first two loan agreements in my country? Was it Greece or the European banks? Let's have a look at the facts. The first loan agreement of 110 billion euros in May 2010 offered a safe emergency exit to private bondholders and in particular to European banks so as to reduce their exposure to Greek bonds. On 31 of December 2009, almost 80% of the Greek debt was owned by European banks. They held Greek bonds valued at 141.5 billion euros. The exposure of French banks to Greece was 60 billion euros, whereas Germany's exposure was to the tune of 35 billion euros. By 31 December 2010, within 1 year, private banks had reduced their holdings of Greek debt from 141.5 billion euros to 45.9 billion euros. That is almost 100 billion euros during the first year of the first memorandum, which is approximately the amount of the first loan. And in 31 December of 2011, 1 year later, the exposure of private banks to Greek debt was further reduced to almost 35 billion euros. So the first loan agreement of 2010 was provided to Greece just for the Greek debt to change hands from private banks to Eurozone states and the IMF. The first loan was made just to save the banks and not to save Greece, not to save the Greek people. In parallel, because creditors refused to agree on a haircut of Greek bonds, sovereign debt from the end of 2009 until the end of 2011 increased from 299 billion to 355 billion in the days of the so-called bailout programs. The second loan agreement of 130 billion in October 2011 was also designed to further protect banks, because the amount included 48 billion euros for bank recapitalization. It was also associated with the notorious PSI private sector involvement. The Greek government that time, in February 2012, agreed with the debtors on a haircut of bonds. That is only after those bonds had changed hands and private banks would not bear any losses. So the losses were registered mainly by Greek public entities such as hospitals, universities, and pension funds, as well as by small bondholders. So who was the main loser? It was pension funds which lost 14.5 billion euros from a total of capital reserves of 21 billion. All this data show that we do not have a Greek rescue, but we have a European bank rescue through Greece. And furthermore, who benefited from this economic crisis? Is it Greece? Is it European South? Or it's Europe's North? Which countries saw their borrowing costs significantly reduced during the crisis at historically low levels as a result of the so-called safe haven effect? Which countries have seen record current account surpluses during the crisis? 8.5% of GDP in 2015 and 9% in 2016, the largest in the world at the expense of the rest of the Eurozone. Which country? I'm sorry to say, but it's Germany. And let me add another comment. When deficits are high, the Eurozone demands action to reduce public spending. So Mr. Dijsselbloem, instead of inappropriate and sexist remarks about drinks and women, should ask Germany to increase public spending given in its large current accounts surplus. All that explains why in 2008 Germany and Greece had almost the same unemployment rate, Germany 7.4% and Greece 7.8%, but in 2015, after the crisis, Germany had reduced unemployment rate to 4.6, while in Greece we had increased from 2.8 to 27%. And all the data lead to the same conclusion. The management of the economic crisis in Europe benefited the North at the expense of the South. GDP per capita growth during the crisis clearly indicates a widening economic divergence along the north-south divide. Income per capita in the south in 2015 was lower than in 2007. On the contrary, in the most countries of the north, it was higher. The process of convergence towards lower unemployment rates until 2008 was reversed during the crisis and was followed by massive and unprecedented divergence. The levels of long-term and youth unemployment are historically high and unacceptable. The risk of poverty and social exclusion, and in particular for children and youth, has increased since 2007 to approximately 25%. Even worse, the situation in the four crisis-torn southern European countries of Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain. When we look exclusively at the increase of children and youth poverty in those four crisis countries, then the increase is absolute numbers. Is approximately 1.16 million children. So I don't want to say more in figures and numbers, but I wanted to prove that the main story, it's not correct. It's fake story, not success story, but fake story. At this critical moment for Europe, Greece is fighting to end austerity and exit from the neoliberal memoranda of social justice and deprivation. We have at last entered recession. Our economy overperformed last year and is now making a turn to recovery and growth. We have left the main burden of the memorandum behind us. And for all these reasons, and even more, we will not be Eurozone's guinea pig for an even more time, as the IMF and its conservative and liberal supporters in Europe might want. They tested these policies failed, we have to change them. We are out of the third and final program in summer 2018, and this is our first priority. But I want to say some true words today, because I am among friends and comrades. We have been governing the country 2 years now under conditions of constant financial blackmail. In the summer of 2015, we made the political choice not to blow Greece to pieces, but we did not agree to assume the ownership of failed programs and policies. We are determined to defend the sacrifices of the Greek people, and particularly of the poor, the low income, and the unemployed. And we will never surrender our people to the yes men of those forces in Europe and elsewhere who want Greece into the straitjacket of austerity for many, many years ahead. Because when the left is entrusted with the mandate of the people, I believe it has no other choice, no matter how difficult it might be, but to honor that mandate. Not to escape from the weight, from the burden of its own political responsibility. It is not a choice for the left to abandon the people in the hands of the conservative forces. So we are determined to be the government that will lead Greece out of the memorandum. And we are determined to be the government that will restore collective bargainings in Greece. Comrades and friends, the economic and social legacy of the European crisis points in the direction of action. The status quo in Europe, which has been rejected in the British referendum, remains the main source of Euroscepticism and of the rise of the extreme right. The democratic, social, and ecological refoundation of Europe, I believe, is the only way out. This is a struggle worth mobilizing the collective endeavor, I believe, of all progressive forces. With these thoughts in mind, we are going to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the European Union by committing ourselves to the struggle for another Europe. This is the only way to prove that a democratic, social, and ecological Europe is still possible. Thank you very much.
Grazie a tutti, permettetemi di ringraziare Alexis per l'impegno che sta mettendo nel portare fuori la Grecia da una situazione difficile. Permettetemi anche di ringraziare chi ci ha ospitato, il preside della facoltà di Economia, Giuseppe Ciccarone, a cui porgo i miei ringraziamenti. Vi ricordo l'appuntamento per questi giorni. Da domani saremo ancora all'Università con una serie di iniziative, tra cui quella con il ministro del lavoro greco, le compagne del ministro dell'Assemblea delle donne, il seminario del GUE che verrà promosso appunto dentro le giornate di domani, e soprattutto vi ricordo l'appuntamento di sabato 25 alle ore 11 a Piazza Vittorio. Buonasera e grazie a tutti.